Hello, this is Hannah with Hannah Crafted Gifts, and I am very busily getting ready for On Stage Local, which is my first ever demonstrator conference from Stampin' Up. So I have been a demonstrator for I think around 5 years now. I've lost track these last few years. And I did stop and start, like third time was the charm. The third time I signed up, third year in a row, I was finally able to sustain it. So I think it's been like 3 years straight now, but 5 years overall. Anyway, whenever you're a demonstrator, you can attend these conferences. They have an annual conference globally, and that's like a 3-day event, at least currently. I think it's gone through iterations over the years. But then they also do these local events so that people who can't travel as far have somewhere to go for a day-long event. So one of them is actually in my hometown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this Saturday, November 12th. So I don't know when I will post this, before or after that event. If I do post this before, keep tuned on my channels because I will be sharing lots of sneak peeks of upcoming product that will be the first time anyone's seeing it from the upcoming mini catalog from January to, it was June, but that may be changing. It may be a shorter time period now, but coming out in January, that mini catalog, as well as the upcoming celebration catalog for January and February. So lots of fun, exciting things to see and lots of project ideas just to get inspiration, even if you don't really care about the product, but you just want some craft inspiration. So more to come on that. But I have been preparing swaps because when all these demonstrators get together, we want to share inspiration too with one another. So I've made 50, or I'm making 50 sort of cards. I guess they're more like display cards because it wouldn't necessarily be a greeting card, but I'll show you what it is. And I'm going to show you quickly how to make it. So I think fellow demonstrators, but maybe also some fellow hobbyists and just people who love to craft, people who love Stampin' Up will get this. So it says, a day without Stampin' Up is like, just kidding. I have no idea. And hopefully that's reading in the right orientation for you. If it's backwards, my apologies. So I'm going to show you how to make, I'm calling like a twisting stand card. I don't know the actual name for it. I was probably told and forgot, or, you know, sometimes nobody seems to really know. If you know some name for this, please by all means share it. I learned this fold from my upline, Bethany Barnard, who I learned many different folds from, but then took this product to make this version of it with this, you know, sentiment saying. And for that, I used the Nothing Better Than stamp set, which is one of my favorites from the annual catalog. So you can say, you know, a day without coffee, cookies, chocolate, cocktails is like, just kidding, I have no idea, or lots of other fun things. For ink, I used my basic black. This is a retired ink, the archival basic black ink pad, but any of Stampin' Up's black inks, the Memento or Stays On could work. And I also used Whisper White, the craft ink pad, which is current. Just to do my brand stamp on the back here. So you can just barely see that there, Hannah Crafted Gifts. What else? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to flip my camera and show you how I cut the pieces and how I assemble this. So hold while I do that flip. You'll still hear me, but I won't say much because there'll probably be lots of rustling. So I'll just be talking about the rustling, but I'm going to try to do this by, first of all, covering the camera. So that way, if you get motion sick, you won't. And I have to slide my camera onto position. Do a little flip turn, hopefully. Thank you for your patience. It's been a while since I've done this. All right, hopefully now you're seeing my surface. Yes, and some of the mess on the side. All right, so we're gonna see if we can keep this all in view. So here's my cardstock piece. So you can get 2 of these out of a sheet of cardstock because you first of all cut it down. Let me open this up so you can see all the dimensions. So you cut it down, as I already have, to 6 3/4 by 5 1/2. So if you want to really maximize your cardstock, you would take a full sheet, cut it down in portrait, to 6 3/4, and then you would just be able to cut it in half the other direction at 5 1/2, because if it's 8 1/2 by 11, 5 1/2 times 2 is 11. So hopefully that makes sense. So I've gone ahead and done that already. The next step to prepare this, which again I've done, but I'm going to show you how I did it, is to cut it again in portrait. You're going to go to 4 1/4, and you're gonna cut 2 slits. So I'm at 4 1/4 here. I'm gonna bring my cutting blade up, and I'm gonna cut from, and I've already done this, so I wanna be careful, but I'm gonna go from 1 1/4 on the side here, and I will say it's hard to see on the black, but you're gonna cut at 4 1/4 from 1 1/4 down to 2 3/4. And if you're not hearing the cut, that's because I'm holding it a little above because I've already cut it. I don't want to double cut. So 1 1/4 to 2 3/4. Then you're going to lift it up, move it down, make sure your paper doesn't move like mine just did. Keep it at 4 1/4 there. And then cut again from 4 to 5 1/2. And I will have all this written in the description on YouTube or on my blog, wherever you found this from, or if you linked from my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you'll be able to see these instructions. So then I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna do that on the other side. So again, just to repeat, you're at 4 1/4 right here where my pinky's tapping. You're gonna go in and cut from 1 1/4 down to 2 3/4, then lift, place the blade down between 4 and 5 1/2 and cut that section as well. So once you've done that on both sides, you'll have these 2 top slits and these 2 bottom slits, but you won't have the connection to make this square kind of pop out. Now, of course, you are keeping this section in the middle. That's why we skipped when we were cutting. But to cut these connection pieces, you're gonna put your card in landscape orientation, and you're gonna cut from 5 1/2, and you're just going to connect. So that top slit line that you already cut, which is, let me see if I can tell you where that lands at. Sorry, I'm probably leaning the camera. So that goes from 1 1/4. You're gonna cut all the way down to that second slit, which is at 4 1/4. But basically just connect your top slit to your bottom slit. And then same thing, flip it over, go to 5 1/2 here, and cut again from the top slit, or about 1 1/4 to the bottom slit, about 4 1/4. All right, so then once you've done that, you just have a little bit of scoring to do. So you're gonna keep it in landscape. You're gonna go to 2 3/4. So move that cutting blade out of the way, don't use that. And the trick is you're gonna score just from the bottom of the card up to that slit you cut, and then lift, move the scoring blade up, and then score from the top of the card down to that first slit. So you don't wanna score all the way across this square that you've just kind of popped out. You're just scoring from the top down to the cut and from the bottom up to the cut. Same thing if you slide this in to 4 inches. So the first one was 2 3/4, the second one is 4. So you don't have to flip it around, and you're gonna just score down again from the top to that first slit, up from the bottom to that first slit. And then the way that you fold this is you're gonna fold a mountain for the first fold and a valley for the second fold. And that square is gonna end up twisting in. Now this is a very important card to burnish, so I do recommend having a bone folder handy so you can burnish on those fold lines. Flip it over and do the same thing. So that way it's not just constantly popping up and popping open on you. So that way it'll stay kind of flat, and this will fit in a standard size envelope because it gets down to about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so standard card size. So then the way you open it is you just hold 2 corners or the 2 ends, but it's easy at the corners, and gently pull, and it's gonna do this twisting motion. So now let's assemble the rest. I've got my other pieces prepared. So in my version, I have 2 squares of DSP, one for the front, and I'm using the Perfectly Penciled Designer Series paper, which is one of my favorites. I love black and white. So one of the things I wanted to do for this set of samples is do something that was very much me. And very much demonstrators with the, Stampin' Up saying, and also very much on stage, which is where the coloring here comes in. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I cut these 2 pieces of DSP, and you'll notice they're the same DSP, just showing the 2 different sides. And so these are cut to 4 by 2 3/4, and that way I get a nice 1/8 of an inch border around here, because this is 4 1/4 by 3 essentially. So I've got those 2 pieces ready to go, and I've already done my stamping, cutting and adhering of my sentiments. So these little strips, whatever sentiment you're doing, I say just make it slightly bigger than your sentiment. For all 4 of the sentiments I have here, I was able to do the same, which I like because then they, you know, line up with one another. So it's 1/4 inch by 1.5. And so they're all the same. So I actually cut my strips and then stamped on them. It was tight stamping, but can be done. And those I've just adhered down with the multi-purpose liquid glue. That's my adhesive of choice. And then for the Stampin' Up logo, I used the black Stampin' Dimensionals, the little mini size, because I just needed one of those then on the back. This, first of all, you could stamp it on a strip just like I did these if you have any stamp that has the copyright Stampin' Up sentiment, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's always available. There's always at least one current stamp set that has that in it for the angel policy, so that you can stamp the copyright Stampin' Up again, sentiment on a card or project of any kind, and then sell it because you've gone ahead and acknowledged that the images are Stampin' Ups. You can also cut these logos though off of catalogs. So when catalogs retire, I like to cut off the corner of the back cover that has the Stampin' Up logo. This particular one actually came off of these invitation cards, which when you're a demonstrator, you get for free as part of your starter kit, and then you can purchase more if you need them. But I always have more of these than I need because I do digital invitations. So I cut the Stampin' Up logo right off there, and it was the perfect size and color for what I was doing. So I was excited about that. So I've got those pieces ready to go. Let's see, I talked about my sentiment strips. So now let's go ahead and assemble. So I'm gonna move my paper trimmer out of the way. You do need a paper trimmer for this project, obviously. And I'm gonna use a little bit more of that multi-purpose liquid glue. So you wanna have the card the way it will be closed. And again, the way you do that is you've got a mountain fold on the left, a valley fold on the right, and then it kind of folds in on itself. But you can do it this way where you kind of slide this in, or you can go ahead and open it up. Now this is the back of the card open, but I like to start with it the way it's gonna look like when it's closed, so that I make sure I'm putting this on the right side, but then it is easier to glue this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So just put glue all over the back of this. And I know y'all know how to do this, so feel free to skip this part if you want. That's why I did the other, you know, kind of same old things depending on, or I guess not depending on which project you do. Like if you're stamping, it is what it is. If you're adhering, it is what it is. If you're cutting little strips, it is what it is. But I just wanted to show you the things that were unique about this card. And I'll talk about some other things while I assemble. So now that I've got that piece on, I'm gonna flip it over and put this piece on. So the way I did my coloring here, I said this was kind of on stage, and it is in fact of how I chose my colors. So we've gotten some sneak peeks of kind of, I guess, the theme of the marketing and like swag that we're going to receive at on stage. We've actually seen the swag we're going to receive at on stage. If you watch our CEO Sarah Douglas on her Facebook page, she posted several weeks back all of the goodies that we're going to get, but or at least some of them, I think, maybe not all, maybe more to come. But it had this petal pink background on a lot of the items. And again, a lot of the marketing had the same color scheme. And then what looked to me like Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky, a couple of our current in colors. Let me hold this up a little closer so you can see. And so I've used that same color scheme to inspire, since these are going to be swaps at the event, how I colored. So I had my petal pink ink pad and a blending brush. And so I just used that to create kind of a wash that fades in the corner there, fades out to the white. Because I really like this paper that it does look pencil drawn and, you know, kind of like a sketch, maybe like mid concept art or something like that. So I wanted to leave some of it just the white, because again, black and white is my thing. Like normally I wouldn't color, or if I did, like maybe I would just do the blending brush wash. But then I used my Stampin' Write markers. Honestly, I would have preferred to use blends, or better yet, to use a blender pen into an ink pad. But for these two colors, Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky, these are actually the only tools that I have right now. So those are the coloring tools I went with. If these came in watercolor pencils, that with the blending blender pen could have also looked really nice, because it just would have looked, I think, a little softer and a little bit, again, more kind of like sketched, hand-drawn, hand-painted, whereas the marker is a little more bold. But what I tried to do is kind of fade out, so I have, you know, things fully colored in, and then with some white, or in this case, you've got the petal pink underneath showing through, and then lots of white. So it's still kind of like, it looks like in progress. So anyway, that's why I chose to do that. And I liked the idea of, you know, the one side of the paper being kind of just this like geometric pattern and kind of dark, because, you know, it's talking about like a day without Stampin' Up. And then is like, and you flip, and it's just kidding, I don't know. Here's, you know, lots of flowers, which Stampin' Up is famous for, and lots of color, or at least a little color, as much color as I could bring myself to use. So anyway, that's all of the overthinking, or at least a lot of the overthinking, maybe not even all of it, that went into this project. I love to plan projects. That's one of my favorite things. So there you go. And I just need to put my brand stamp on there in the bottom corner. But now we've got, whoop. There we go. Did I do it upside down? No, I didn't. Okay, whew, I got nervous there for a second. A day without Stampin' Up is like, just kidding, I have no idea. And this was actually my favorite piece of DSP. I really love the pattern on both sides of this one. So really excited to share that with my fellow demonstrators. Let me go ahead and see if I can flip the camera to come back on for a moment and, you know, share a few other things and say goodbye. So again, sorry for the noise. I'll twist and shout. No. All right. Good. So there's a couple versions. I'm gonna have, let's see how many, 4 more versions of this card, because I did use every sheet of DSP in the pack. So you get 12 sheets, 2 of 6 double-sided designs. That always gets me. So you can see here, you know, 1 sheet, both sides of the design. So that's 2 of the 6, and I'll have the other 4 done shortly. Sorry, I just realized I was holding that. It might have been partly open. There they are, closed. So more to see. And again, if I'm posting this before On Stage Local, which is Saturday, November 12th, there's going to be lots to see that day. So keep following me on my channels during or after the event. I'll be posting as much as I can, as soon as I can. But so excited. So thank you, Stampin' Up, for this opportunity. Thank you all for watching. Like this video if you did, comment and I'll reply. The most helpful thing you can do is subscribe to my channel or share it with others, that would be interested. But whatever you choose to do, thank you again for your support, and happy crafting.